Hi, welcome to Help Me Help Mama LiveCast. Doug and Cindy today. Cindy's back, so that's good. Got some help today. So, today we're going to take some family caregiver questions and comments. Got several good comments on our Facebook page. We really appreciate that. We appreciate it, and more importantly, your fellow family caregivers appreciate it. When you make comments and answer each other's question and give each other words of encouragement. This is a community page, and so everybody appreciates your input in your remarks, and so we're going to go over just a couple of them today. We've got a good comment here from my cousin Lynn, and hi Lynn, thanks for joining us. Thanks for your comment. She mentions that I have a couple that are our friends for a long time. His wife has several things wrong with her, but she refuses to let her husband bring anyone to help, and when he's tried, she runs him off. She's supposed to be in a wheelchair at all times, but she won't listen, and she falls almost every day. Last week she hit her head and had 9 staples. I'm the only person that she will allow to do anything. I love them both dearly and do help out when I can and so forth. But, Lynn, thank you for that. So, we see a lot of that. And I replied here, this is a tough situation we've seen many times. It's especially tough when the person is declining and has mental capacity. So, sometimes... especially in cases where there's a bug here, cases where there's early Alzheimer's, it's better when it's better, and it's easier when it's worse, when they can't fight you. But in early stages, and this lady here apparently didn't have Alzheimer's,
but she fell, and she had to go
but she fell.
get 9 staples, which is serious.
And I think a lot of times if a person's declining, they're in denial. They don't want to give in and accept help because they think, well, then when I give in, well, then it's over. So they're fighting it tooth and nail. They want to hang on as long as they can. They don't want anyone else in the house. It's just her and her husband. But this guy here, and this is pretty typical, and we've said it on here before, the Alzheimer's Association, they've got a statistic that a lot of times the caregiver spouse dies before the one they're taking care of dies, because they've got a lot of stress on them, and it's tough.
So you mentioned a couple of reasons why you I guess basically insinuated why you think she may not want someone to come in the house. She didn't want anybody to come in her house. So what I think you need to do, Lynn, is to find out the real reason why she doesn't want anybody to come in. I mean, does she just want her husband? He's always taken care of her, so that's the way it's always been, that's the way it's going to be. Or is it that she doesn't trust anyone else to come in her house? If she makes another trip to the ER or to the doctor to get any more staples or anything, they may have to report that, because they are, in our area, they are mandatory reporters. And you don't want Adult Protective Services coming in. So my suggestion would be is sit down with her and explain. Say, look, he's doing all he can. It's not enough. So you need to get some help in here. Here's a list of service providers. Let's call them and talk to a couple of them, because if you fall again and Adult Protective Services come in, they may just take you directly to a facility. So you never know. And that would not be good.
No, and that's what it's called in our state, Adult Protective Services. It's probably called something different in your state, but it's the state agency that is responsible for making sure that seniors are okay in their home. And, in a case like this, both of them are really in danger, because, like I say, the stress could be so much for him that he dies first, and if he doesn't die, he could get down on his back, hurt his back, and then they're both down, and then instead of one of them needing a care facility, nursing home or whatever, it's both of them the same day. And if it wasn't for people like you, checking in on them, if something happened to him and then both of them are down, what's going to happen? They could be there for days and nobody would know. Uh, so that is tough, and it's really bad. Like I say, early Alzheimer's. We've had several clients throughout the years. We've got uh, even a good friend that's a case with her father that he is just early Alzheimer's, and every time she goes over, um, it's this he don't want any help, he don't need any help, and kind of resents the implication, and it makes it tough on everybody, and of course that Alzheimer's is a progressive disease. When it gets worse to the point where he is not combative anymore, the disease is worse and the progression's worse and his condition's worse, but it'll actually be easier for her at that point to put him where he can get some help.
So now, though, if she will allow someone to come in the house to help, it's kind of like an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So if she will allow somebody to come in and help him and help her, he can last longer. She will be able to stay at home longer. I don't know if you can explain that to her, but that's what I'd try to do.
And so one thing, and a lot of times people probably know that makes good logical sense, but they don't want to, like I say, they're in denial and they're fighting to hang on to normality. And so it may take a neutral third person, like I mentioned here, like a life care planner, or sometimes they're called geriatric care planners. There's someone that would come in and assess the situation, and
Or if she goes back for a checkup after the staples, maybe have the doctor
a
or
doctor
APN mention
or somebody
it.
that just has a Dutch uncle talk, like they used to say, a Dutch uncle talk with her, or as Ann Landers used to say, wake up and smell the coffee. Somebody's going to have to sit down with her and explain things and say, look, if this continues on, you're going to get worse. You're going to take your husband down with you, and then it's not going to be good. And like Cindy said, if somebody comes in and helps just a little bit, you can stretch out the time you're at home a lot longer. And whether that'll work or not, I don't know. Sometimes logic and common sense just don't work. And unfortunately, it gets to the situation sometimes where Adult Protective Services has to come in, the state has to come in and just force the hand. And what they would do, they would initiate usually a guardianship proceeding where the state would appoint someone, and they would just take them to a facility somewhere where they could get the care they needed. And that's bad. We saw one just earlier this year where um, a, a salesman went to a lady's house and to sell her something, a piece of medical equipment, and he just sensed that things weren't right, and he called Adult Protective Services. This was like just after lunch this happened, and like 6 o'clock in the evening, which is dark, this time of year, 6 o'clock in the evening, Adult Protective Service knocked on the door, and they took her by force away from home, and she was early Alzheimer's, and I know it just scared her to death, but and her husband was there too, but that was just a bad situation, and certainly want to keep things like this from happening. But the state will intervene if it determines that they're a danger to themselves or someone else, and they do need to take action. So hopefully these people can get some help.
Okay, so you mentioned she may not want help because she may reason in her own mind that if she gets help, that means the end is near. So if that's the case, discuss that with her, address that issue. This is, I mean, she may be like that all the time, but this is the holiday season, and this is the time for emotions, and they're very strong. So maybe if that's it, try to address the emotional part of it with her and see if you can't reason with anybody until you get past the emotion. And speaking of emotions, if you're the primary caregiver for your loved one and you've got siblings coming in from out of town to see mom, visit with mama. They hadn't seen her in a month or two, or a year. And they call once in a while and talk to her, though, and that's great. So you're going to be dealing with a lot of emotion, and if mom understands what's going on, she will too. So recognize that.
And if you're the primary caregiver that comes in, you may walk in a situation. I mean, if you're one of the out of town kids, like this situation we were just discussing, and say you come home for Christmas and you walk into a situation like this, and I promise you, today, this is December the 23rd, probably there's people watching this that this is happening to right now. You came in, and mom and dad, you speak to them on the phone once a week, and they sound okay on the phone, and then you walk in, and then a scenario just like we were discussing is unfolding before you, and you think, oh my God, there's, mom is going down fast, dad's taking care of her, and he can't do it much longer. If he does it much longer, both of them are going to go down, and so at that point you just got to intervene. If you're one of the kids that runs across this, you've got to do something to get them some help. And like I say, I know this time every year we have people come in just after the holidays and tell us, hey, something's going on with mom and dad, and we thought things were fine, and we're just shocked. And what do? We're shocked. And
they may recognize that things aren't right, and something needs to be done. And Dad, you got to take care of mom. You got to. Dad can't. You don't understand. I mean, once you hit a wall, it's it. So if you're an adult child coming in from out of town and you talk to mom and dad once in a while, and you walk in on this very situation, you don't really know what you're looking for. You don't know what all the issues are, and dad doesn't really understand how to explain them to you. He doesn't understand to tell you that he's worn out.
Dad don't know how to handle it. I mean, all he knows is that it's him and mom. They've been married for 50 years, and they're just doing the best they can. That's all he knows is I'm doing the best I can. So you as a kid that's coming in, I mean, here you are, today's Friday. You're probably going to be here for the holidays, Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever you celebrate, and you're going to be here for just a few days. And then you're flying back, maybe Monday or maybe Sunday night you're flying back. And so you got a very short period of time. So while you're here, make some contacts, maybe contact your local Alzheimer's Association, ask for some resources, find the life care planner, geriatric care manager that can get out there and do an assessment. And honestly, you may have to come back in a couple of weeks and just follow up on this, because in a situation like this is a crisis situation that you've just got to follow up on and get them some help, either in home or in a facility.
It's not going to go away. It will just progress.
Yep. And if both of them, and like in a case like this, dad gets down too, then you don't have one of them down. You got two of them like the same day.
Then you do have a crisis.
Okay, let's do just a couple of more comments, and then talked about that longer than I meant to. But
14 minutes.
Yeah. So I want to, here. And so this lady says, my mom passed at our home. This is Martha. My mom passed at her home just earlier this month. Our condolences, Martha. She passed at home with us after 8 months of illness. Grateful she was with us, cherish the memories we made despite the long hours, the exhaustion, advocating for her medically, etc. It was a long road, still grateful. Merry Christmas, Mom. So I know a lot of you watching this going through the same thing, have been through the same thing. Cindy went through the same thing.
Last year was my first Christmas without Mom, so I got an ornament.
Got an ornament for her. Got an ornament for her and hung on it on her tree. So let's do one more. Jennifer, that helps us with our Facebook page, posted this. A note to self: relax. You are enough. You have enough. You do enough. Breathe extra deep. Let go and live right now in the moment. That's great advice. Maria says, I created my own respite this week by staying home, relaxing one day in bed, cared for my mom with her meds. She was tired too, so both of us chilled with no plans or appointments. I got some loving from the dogs. But, you know, I know that happens. It's happened to us, just being there caring for your loved one, and it gets to the point that both of you are just exhausted and just like, let's all collapse together. You know,
Sleep feels good.
it feels good when you can collapse and just rest a little bit. Gloria says, I've lived long enough to know if you're not taking a deep breath once in a while and relax, you're not living. So I think that's a good one to close on. So any final thoughts?
No, I'll cry.
Okay. No more thoughts this week. Hope that y'all are having a Merry Christmas or Happy Hanukkah season, and that you have some special time with your loved ones during this season. And
Thank you for being a caregiver.
thank you for this. Thank you for all you're doing. Thank you for these comments. They, like I say, they mean a lot to your fellow caregivers. You can tell by going to our Facebook page that a lot of people read these, and whether they comment or not, your comments, your thoughts mean a lot to your fellow caregivers. So please, please read these. Please comment. Give words of encouragement to each other, and I think that's all we have for today. So share this with somebody. Thanks. We'll see you again tomorrow on Help Me Help Mama LiveCast.